Coach Tim, and I'm here today with another great sports thought leader, Bobby Hosea. He is the founder of Train 'em Up Academy and the father of the safe tackle movement in football. And Bobby, I just want to welcome you. How are you doing today?
Tim, thank you. I'm doing great. Appreciate the opportunity to share this very important topic with you. But yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, you know, I'm a big proponent of what you've been teaching. I have followed you for many years, and I think you're doing God's work. If we're going to save this game, we gotta do it at the fundamental level, and I think you're doing it. But I want to introduce you and by kind of telling a story of how I first met you, which is kind of interesting.
Very interesting.
Long ago. Many moons ago, in another life, I graduated from college and I was going to become a real estate agent. And while I was waiting for my license, which can take a while, doing the tests and all that kind of stuff, I had a buddy whose father owned a sporting good store, but the store also rented equipment to the studios. And so I was asked if I wanted to go be a football player for some HBO series called First and 10. And so I thought, wow, that'd be kind of cool, right? And I'm sure anybody outside of Los Angeles thinks, well, that's normal. Everybody does that in LA. And it's really not true. Not everybody you meet are stars. You don't run into stars. It's a big, big city. But for whatever reason, I got to do this thing, and I got to play football kind of, sort of. I got to kind of act football for a while and got to meet a lot of neat people. And one of the things that my buddy, Steve's his name, and I did one day was we walked up to this fella who was one of the actors, and he was very, very approachable, you know, very nice, very charismatic, basically our age. And we went up to him and we're still kids, right? At that age, you're what, 21 or something? And we're like, do you know how to make yourself cry? Are you one of those actors? And so our guest here, Bobby Hosea, was the actor. And Bobby proceeded to start blubbering like a baby before our very eyes within about a 30-second time span, and we sat there like Garth in the movie, and we went, we're not worthy, we're not worthy. It was amazing, and to this day I remember that. Jump forward about 30 years, and a hero in Los Angeles, a police officer, was slain. And I coached with him back in the day, and turns out our mutual friend Randy Simmons had passed away, slain, and it was a huge, huge event in Los Angeles, thousands upon thousands, and I attended the wake the night before, and the other coach that I attended with said, hey, you might know this guy. And I'm like, why would I know some random guy? That's weird that he would know that. And sure enough, I run into Bobby Hosea, who was a mutual friend of Randy. And I put two and two together immediately. And in fact, I had met Bobby. And that's how we met in our adult lives. And I found out that I got to know Bobby, the coach, not Bobby the actor. And Bobby the coach has a wonderful, wonderful story and how he is changing the game of football. Anybody who's anybody in football knows this name. But I want to start off at the beginning of your story, Bob. How did you get to UCLA? How does a kid, you're a local guy, right?
Well, but my father was in the Air Force, so we traveled all over the country, moving every 4 years, it seems like. Nebraska, New York, Alabama. He was in Vietnam. We went to live with his parents in Alabama. My daddy went to Vietnam in '68 or something like that. And when he got back, he got shipped to Northern California, and in Wheatland Beale Air Force Base is what was the name of the base, and in a small town called Wheatland, California. And that's when ninth grade was the first time I actually played football. My mother would never let me play. She always said I was sickly, and because I guess I had some issues as a child and growing up with different types of things wrong with me. But anyway, I was ninth grade. She let me play, and I was dyslexic, and still am to this very day. And I didn't know what was wrong with me then. I thought I was dumb and stupid, and I couldn't read. And consequently, I would never read out loud in class because I was ashamed. And I just knew all my friends and stuff would start laughing. And so I would get kicked out of class, actually, and get sent to the office because I was being rebellious in the teacher's eyes, you know, being Mr. Tough Guy. And it wasn't it at all. I was just really ashamed. Well, anyway, I got a first down on 4th and 1 in ninth grade. And I remember that moment like it would just happen before I called you. And everything slowed down, Tim. I could see my coaches on the sideline jumping up and down. All my teammates are hitting me on the head, slapping me, telling, you know, and all of a sudden the world opened up to me and everything became possible. And I no longer felt dumb and stupid. I felt empowered by that moment of having that little success. And in those days, I didn't have any football knowledge whatsoever. I didn't know that maybe getting that first down allowed us to continue the drive and to run the clock out and we win. I had no idea, right? Didn't know what a ball was. Didn't know nothing about football strategy, just a kid. And from that moment on, football became the thing I needed to make me feel good about me. And so as a consequence, I got pretty doggone good at it. And then we moved to San Bernardino. My daddy got transferred down to Norton Air Force Base on San Bernardino. It's closed now. And I went to a high school by the name of San Gorgonio High School.
Oh, yeah.
And I excelled there. They put me, my junior year, I stood behind everything running back. So I got very little time in my junior year. And then, of course, they all graduated. Then I became like, you know, one of the studs on the team. One of us, about 5 of us that were really good. And I played wide receiver and had a great standout, year that year. And I didn't, again, I'm dyslexic. I don't do homework. I don't do a lot of studying because I think I'm incapable. I think I'm dumb, and I really still think I'm dumb and stupid. But you would never know it by the way that you talk to me. But I had this really low self-esteem deep inside of me because I had this issue that I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just thought I was stupid. I couldn't read. And so I ended up not going to getting a scholarship, even though Stanford wanted me, all these schools wanted me. In fact, Dartmouth was the first letter I ever got. And I was like, Dartmouth, where's that? They said, man, that's the Ivy League. I said, you mean Harvard and Yale? They go, yeah. I said, oh, no, I'm too dumb and stupid to go to that school. So I tore the letter up and actually tore it up, Tim, and threw it away. That's how, really, for real, it's really funny. But anyway, football, so I went to local junior college. Coach Willie Shaw, I'll never forget it, from Stanford. That's when they had great wide receivers at Stanford. And so he said, Bobby, he said, you can play for any school in this country, but go to junior college and get your grades up. He says, and then you'll be able to pick any school in the nation because you have that kind of talent, except Stanford, because we don't take junior college transfers. And man, my heart sunk. So I went to San Bernardino Valley College, and I've always been a very physical and intense guy. And so the head coach said, Bobby, you have a better temperament for defense than playing wide receiver. You're a good wide receiver, but we got this guy that was an All-American a year before bouncing back. And so they said, Bobby, go over and play defense because you have a better temperament for that. You're mean. So I said, okay. So I go and I play defense. And here's the blessing for me, Tim, is that my dad now had gone to Iran my senior year. So that really hurt me because I didn't have that disciplinarian over me making sure I was doing my homework. Because my mother was an RN, and she worked 11 to 7, so she'd be asleep when she come home from work in the morning. We were just getting ready to leave, and then we come home from school. She's taking her nap, and then she's asleep, and then she goes to work. So she was never really over me as far as me doing my homework, so I wasn't doing it. And so that's why I had bad grades. But anyway, when I got to junior college, my dad's back from Iran, and he retired. And in junior college, anybody can go to junior college. And guess
Yeah.
who was in my class? My dad.
Oh my gosh.
My father was in my class. So what did I sit, dude? You know I sat in the front. Was I ever late in class?
And that hand went up lots.
Yeah, and I sit in the front, and I was never late, and I did all my homework. I wish to God, my father was with me all the way through my college career, because I'd had my PhD in probably astronomy or something ridiculous, or brain surgery. I don't know, but I wish my dad was with me the whole time. But it really got me to studying, and then I kind of found out.
Just as a side note, isn't that interesting? You kind of, I mean, just as a psychological kind of twist, I mean, that motivation. All of a sudden, you think you're dumb as a doorknob, and and by the way, to play football, you got to have some smarts to play it, despite the stereotype. But we don't translate that all the time that way, and so you're not translating it to the classroom. But all of a sudden, Pop shows up, and now all of a sudden you got smart. How's that happen?
Right. Well, it was just all it was doing was just applying your work ethic. If you sit down and you study, take the time, and I'm intelligent. I found out, I'll tell you as we move forward here, I'll tell you something about when I got to UCLA. I just started studying because I didn't want to hear from my dad, and then I was turning in my work, and I was doing my work, and they didn't require you to read out loud in junior college, so I never had to read the next paragraph, as we go around the room. So I never had that issue. So, my grades went up and everything, and, I had good grades. And next thing you know, I'm getting all these offers. Cal wanted me real bad, but I wanted my father, because he missed my senior year of high school, I wanted him to see me play. So I chose UCLA over everybody else. Yeah, because I want my dad to see me play, and that's why I went to UCLA. Great school and everything, and Poly Pavilion was great to go when I went on my trip, and I was watching the Bruin basketball team. That kind of did it. Because it was my favorites. Yeah, it was my favorite sports team actually growing up. Them and Notre Dame was my favorite football team, and because everywhere we moved, we'd always hear Notre Dame no matter where we lived. So that was the one thing you hear on the radio was Notre Dame football. And so I went to UCLA.
Well, let me ask you this, because you, I had this set for a question later on, but I think right now is a more apropos time to ask it. And, why is football important?
Football is important because it challenges you like no other sport. And what I tell the kids and tell anybody that I coach is it's a bone on bone. That means you're going to have opposition with another human being, and you have to take them on. And sometimes you're going to get put on your back, but you got to get back up. And you got to take on that same person the next snap. And so it teaches you resolve. It teaches you want to, have to, go and do, which translates into your real life, into the rest of your life. So football is very important in that it teaches you selflessness, discipline, accountability, respect for others. And it really is a uniter. No matter what neighborhood you come from, football players come from all neighborhoods. So maybe you've never been around a Hispanic person, never been around a black person or a white person.
Yes.
But now that you're playing football, now you have Asian teammates that you don't know any Asian people. The ones you saw were on the Kung Fu movies, right? You don't really know them.
The only color that matters is the one on your jersey at that point, right?
That's right. Your jersey, your color scheme of your team, black and gold or whatever the color may be, blue and gold at UCLA, cardinal and gold at SC. The colors, that's what really matters, and then it's a teamwork. So it really brings you together. Football is the best sport in the world as far as I'm concerned for that, because, like I said, it challenges you like no other, and it has nothing to do with your ability. It has everything to do with your will and your willingness to work hard and to sacrifice and be accountable, which I said translates to the rest of your life. So for me, that's why football is very important. And so with my own life, I've had so many opportunities, and they all resulted from football. I've been around the world, and pretty much, not all. I haven't been to Africa yet, and I haven't been to South America, but I've been to pretty darn much everywhere else. And it's all because of football. And so
Yep.
for me, I believe football can inspire everyone that plays it to get the best of them, to bring them to be who they're going to be, help them become who they're going to be, their zenith person, who they're going to be, so they can be a contributor to our world in whatever capacity that may be. You know, whether it's a great neighbor, a great father, a great lieutenant colonel, a president of the United States, whatever, fireman, cop, teacher, just to be the best way you can contribute to society to help our world be better. And football really helps that. And that's what it did for me. So that's why it means so much to me, and why I want to protect the little ones, the least of us, or the least of them, children, from the bad part of the game that harms them in a way that debilitates them for the rest of their life, or actually takes their life, or paralyzes them, or damages their brain to the point where they're not going to finish school, they're not going to get a job, you know, these kind of things. And that can be prevented. Not everybody that plays football gets a concussion, but traumatic and brain injuries and traumatic neck and spinal cord injuries come from the act of primarily making a tackle. And there are elements in the teaching instruction that are actually dangerous, but no coach is required to know what those are, to eliminate them and know how to prevent them by replacing them. And that's where my quest is now, is to make my system the national standard of care, to force coaches to learn what they teach, what's dangerous about it, and how to change it and how to fix it.
That's awesome. I want to get into that a little bit more, but I do want to ask you, as we're here and we talk about why football is important. One of the things that I want to just point out is, a lot of people try to relate football to the military, and you, with a military father, might appreciate this. But I always thought that is, I could see the relativity, but I also at the same time, in honor of our servicemen who actually go out and risk their lives, let's stop that comparison. But there is a rapport that happens within football, and there's no denying that. I've been on the phone with people I've never talked to before in my business, and I know they play football. I just know. And then we get to know each other, and sure enough, they played at some college, or at least they played high school somewhere. There's a code that runs deep within all of football players, because they've all gone through those aspects that you talked about that make the difference. And the thing that bothers me is when people, our brothers who played football, have a hard time translating their success from the field to a life success. You said earlier, every success I've had is because of football, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
Why there's too many guys I know that aren't translating that. And I don't want to go into this too deeply, because I want to talk about your stuff, but that is something I just knowing you, I know might bother you also, and it's something that definitely bothers me. Would you like to comment on that? I mean, have you noticed it? Is there something that maybe we could do to make sure that these guys are maybe handled better? I don't know. I don't even know the right question.
Well, first let me talk about the military aspect of it first, where football has a chain of command like the military. You have strategy, and that's part of the militaristic, the flank, knowing your side, all those things, that's kind of militaristic, and everybody being on the same page. In fact, having been an actor for over almost 40 years now, oh my God, I played a lot of Marines, and you always research your character to find out what you have to know about you, so you can walk and be authentic. When you walk, you want to be like whatever you're playing. And so in studying, looking up the Marine Corps, I found out that the Marine Corps is actually older than the United States. And without the Marine Corps, there would not be a United States. The Marines are the first one to hit the beach. So basically Marines are bully hunters. They're looking for trouble. And so that's a mentality. So they're a can do, will do, want to, gonna do mentality with the Marines. And so I have a great admiration for them because I have a couple series, a couple TV shows, and a couple movies that I played Marines. And in fact, when I line my kids up and all my players, whether they're kids or adults, coaches, we do the mirror drill where I'm out in front of them. They have to mimic everything I do, but I set the mindset and I say, we are Marines without M16s because we have opponents, not enemies. And our mission is to stop the forward progress of the ball carrier. And our intention is to knock it loose. So we have an attitude, So you get that mentality. But one of the things I want to address real quick, too, as well, when you say military is about destroying the enemy to protect our freedom. So there's death and destruction involved in that. Football, people try to say, so it's violent. This is this term. No, it's not violent. Football is physical. Violence is spousal abuse. Violence is abusing an elderly person or a child that cannot defend themselves, physically abusing them. Whereas in football, all the opponents on the field have been equally trained, they're equipped equally, and they have a strategy. Violence doesn't have a timeout. Violence doesn't have a designated time for it to stop. Football does. It has timeouts, it has quarters, it has halftime. So it is a sport that is physical. It's only violent when you use your helmet as a weapon. The rest of it is physical, because violence means to kill, to destroy, to injure. That is not the object of football, and it's been misguided because in a lot of ways. One of them is the announcers. They're saying things, just saying it, and then people buy into it because they hear it, but they're misguided. It's not violent. It's physical. Taking on a block. That guy's trying to knock me backwards so they can get outside. I got to take them on. It's going to be a physical confrontation. It's not a violent confrontation. It's physical. He's using technique that he's been taught to block me. I'm using a technique to take him on, to contain, keep my outside shoulder free, make the back cut back inside or bounce, right? So that's technique. That's physical. And so far as guys, the world beats you up. You get out into the real world, you lose a job, you get divorced, someone passes away, you get sick, you lose your home. It's so much going on to defeat you. If those guys you were kind of talking about that are going through life and then they're not reflecting on their football, what they got from it, and apply that, that's what they need to apply. That's when you need to apply those things. Because one of our sayings, I got a million. I've been coaching a long time, Tim, since 1984. You throw stuff against the wall to motivate people, and some of it sticks. So I've got some few things that stuck that I constantly use, and one of them I say is dirty, sweaty, tired, and sore, and loving it. Okay, what's it gonna take? All I got. What do we need? All I got. What you gonna give? All I got. Those are things that you call on in the fourth quarter when they're on the goal line or we're on the goal line. We got to stop them or we got to get in to win. So that's when you got to go down in your gut and pull those things out. Well, when real life beats you up, you kind of lose that perspective because you got the reality of a mortgage that now they're trying to take your house, telling you got to move out of it because you haven't paid your house note in several months, and you got that reality. But if you do go back and you had a great football coach and a great football experience, that experience will help you fight through the tough times, because we're all going to have them. We're going to have them, you know.
Yep.
And we got to have a resource. And those of us that have been blessed enough to play football, whether it was high school, junior college, college, or professionally, and go through that, that gives you a certain, the average person doesn't have, a resource of resilience and can do and fight back and get up when you get knocked down that the average person doesn't have. That's one of the reasons. So I guess that's why what you're kind of alluding to.
Well, yeah, you're hitting right on it, and to me, it just seems so a shame, because you have been given a gift. If you've played the game at any level, you've been given a gift, and it's like you just said, if you've been, fourth quarter, goal line stand, and it's who wants it more, that's a gift for life. That's not a moment in time. That moment goes and it leaves, but your lesson has been etched in you, and if you don't use it, it's a damn shame. It's a real damn shame, because it's a waste. And there's and really, coaches, you're like, for you, I mean, you're not coaching so that to keep guys safe, right? You're coaching so they could be safe and have a life. And
so they can be great in life.
Right. But we always think in terms of such short-term plans these days, it seems like. But I want to jump forward. You after UCLA, you played in Canada, played some in the defunct USFL, end up at the LA Express, correct?
Yes.
And go ahead.
Yeah, I out of UCLA, it was so funny. Like what's going on now, you guys are having their pro days and whatnot. It's funny how timing is. And so my senior year, I go up to look at the athletic department, look at who's coming in, and Houston Oilers would be here, or the Cowboys, or whatever, and they'd have the list of guys that they wanted to see. And my name was never on the list. And I was like, whoa, I'm not going to get a chance to play in the NFL, because they don't even want to see me in these workouts. I'm like, and then that was the year they went from 15 rounds to 12 rounds. And there was maybe 15, 17, something like that, but they went to 12 rounds. And it came out, I saw some scouting report on me saying Bobby Hosea is the guy who would get drafted in the 14th round. I'm like, man, they're only going to 12, and they're saying I'm the kind of guy that get drafted in the 14th. Man, I ain't even going to get a chance. So,
wow.
So yeah, man. And had I known what I knew now, I'd have taken my butt out there and crashed that thing and locked up every receiver that was out there, because that's what I could do. I lock you up, and I was a heck of a corner dude. But you when you're young, and still inside, I still had this I'm not good enough thing down inside of me, even though I was 2 years started at UCLA and, won several awards while I was there, most inspirational my senior year. And I won the year I redshirted. I was a captain of the scout team and all these things. I still had this thing inside of me. And so I accepted that.
Not only that, if I can interject, because I know that I kind of went through the same thing, and the adult Tim would behave much differently than the young man Tim at 21 or whatever it was, whatever, the younger than that, getting recruited in college. And I recall hearing somebody from USC tell me that I had slow feet and was short and, whatever, blah, 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 blah. He had watched some film. And I just took it, right, because respect authority, respect, and all that kind of stuff. But the film he watched was of me destroying a center they had just signed on as their one of their recruits. And I thought, wow, I mean, either I get a scholarship or that guy loses his. But anyway, I think it's, you know, we're how we're supposed to be. We're respectful, and sometimes that works against us, right?
That's true. Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And so I went to a tryout at Harbor College of all places, and it was for the Montreal Alouettes. And there were 300 dudes there, and I just put on a show at corner one-on-one, and I was blowing dudes up. I was running through dudes. I was picking the ball off. You thought I had on shoulders and helmet and everything, shoulder pads and helmet, but I didn't have on anything. I just was, you know, I went out there and balled it out. And so out of 300 guys, I was the only person that got off the contract. And so I accepted it and went to Canada, Montreal, and then I got traded to Saskatchewan Roughriders, and then I was there for two years in Saskatchewan. And then my original 3-year contract was coming to an end, and they wanted me to extend. And I said, that's when the USFL was coming about. I said, no, I want to go home. I want to play in LA again. I thought that, you know, I'd be able to go on auditions and stuff, because I was thinking, like, I would do, it was unheard of, Tim. I didn't even know, man. I'm a football player, but I was making 10 national TV commercials in 6 months of the year. And I'd leave and go play in Canada.
And you're still
$23,000.
You're still playing football?
Yeah, and I go play Canada. Yeah, I was killing them. I was like making incredible amounts of money in acting, but not knowing that I'm an actor, not even thinking that, because commercials. Mark Harmon sent me to his commercial agent to meet him, and I said I'll be back in a year because I'm a senior and I can't work. And so I went back a year later, and they sent me out on my first audition, and I got it, you know, and I said, okay, I'll do this when I grow up. But anyway, then I went to Canada, you know, played, came back. I do national TV commercials, came back. And this, as I got towards the end of my career at LA Express, somebody's trying to call me. Nope, I can't take this call. So I gotta get rid of this thing, and I'll call you later. Okay, there. All right. So I come back home, and I played for the LA Express, and I was getting towards the end. I was just beat up, man. I was 28. I was, you know what? I've hurt everything. What's next? My neck, my back. I got to think about doing something else. So I started studying acting. Started taking acting classes. I mean, I was killing them in commercials, but commercials are not really truly acting. It's really being yourself or being in the moment. And I can sell milk. I'm really good at it, and I can sell anything. For real, I just smile, I start laughing, whatever. I'm really open because I can take direction. Because when you play football, that's one of the things you can take direction because you're getting coached. Number one thing in football, you got to be coachable. And the way you play is that everything coach talks about in the meeting, you go out and duplicate it out on the field. Guess who's playing on Saturday?
Right.
You are. So I'm able to take directions really well. So and also then learning the craft. Acting is a craft. It's just not being yourself because you're not that interesting. Be the character that's on the paper. Bring that person to life. Then that makes you interesting. So then that happened. So I transferred from that. But at the same time, I had a kid, married, and had a son finally. And at 7 years old, he wanted to play football. So I took him to the local park out here in Carriage Crest Park. And because I used to drive by and get on the freeway and go into auditions and stuff, and I see these little kids with flags down to their shoes. And I say, oh, wow, what if I'll ever have a son and I didn't want to take him and play football? That'd be so great. And who knew? 7 years later, my little boy would say, Daddy, I want to play football. I knew exactly where to go, that same little park by the freeway where you get on the freeway. So that's why I started coaching flag. And we stayed in it for a while, 3 or 4 years in that. And then one day, magically, he said, Dad, I want to play tackle. Will you sign me up? I'm like, oh, my goodness. Why did I not get him a 5-iron instead of that Raider football when he was 4?
Right.
I said, okay, I'll take you up here and sign you up. And the closest place was the Tri-City Falcons. That was near where we lived. And so I took him up there, and the president knew my name. And he says, Bobby Hosea, didn't you just leave UCLA 10 years ago? I said, 20, but thank you very much. You know, time had really gone by. And so I said, I'd like to help out. He goes, okay, you're the head coach. I said, no, help out me. Look out for him. I can't be the head coach. I got too many things I'm doing. And it ended up the head coach had to quit because of his job. So I ended up taking over reluctantly, but I took over. And one of the things I tell the kids about courage, I want them to be tough. And I said, hey, guys, I'll go bear hunting with a switch. So I ain't scared of nothing. But, of course, I'm going to jump in the truck if I see a bear. I'm out. But anyway, I tell them that so they won't be afraid to play football. But what scares me more than anything was to see one of those little guys not be able to get up because of something I told them. And so I was scared to the core of my very being, not just for my son, but for the rest of his little teammates, because they're just as precious in their mother and father's sight as my son is to me. And so I literally prayed. I said, Lord, teach me to teach them, Father, because I don't want to see one that can't get up because of me. And that's when God gave me this vision, dip and rip, because I call things what they are. If you just dip and rip, you're going to stick that dude when you do it right. And so it's funny because in 1991, when we were playing flag, John and Anthony were my little guards, the little fat little guys with little bellies. And they pulled down the line of scrimmage on a sweep, and they just rubbed their belly on the defensive end, and we'd never get outside. And so I said, no, man, you got to dip and explode on this guy. So I went to the hardware store, Builder's Emporium back in those days, and I got the PVC pipes, and I made this little hurdle. And I made John and Anthony go under it and come out the other side and keeping their waist at a 45 and dip and then boom. And when they would do that, they would just light the defensive end up. He'd go flying out the way, and Steven would cut up field and be gone, and we'd score touchdowns. Well, once they got the technique down, I forgot all about the pipes and put them away. I don't even know where they are to this very day. And so when Steven, now you remove it, we go forward to when he's 12. This is when he was 7. Now he's 12, and I forgot all of it. He says, Dad, I don't play tackle football. And then when I said, man, so that's when I went to Builder's Emporium, and I was looking for the pipes they put under the grass for sprinkling. And how I remember that was up in Beverly Hills when you drive around at UCLA, I see these gardeners out there digging these trenches in all these mansions' front yard. A week later, I drive by again, and I see sprinklers. I'm like, oh, my God, that's how they put the sprinklers under the ground. Wow. That's so funny. That's what came to me, and that's what I went and got. And I didn't even know that. The guy says, you mean PVC? I found the guy. I said, where's the pipes you put on the grass for sprinkling? He says, you mean PVC? I said, I guess. He says, in plumbing. I go, oh, here they are. Yeah, good. So I got the pipes, I got the fittings, I got a little saw, and I got the glue, and I went in my garage, and 3 hours, and I made the different ripsticks. And then, mind you, I'd forgotten all about them before. And so I took this set of different ripsticks to practice. And Deshaun Golson, who's had a great 9-year career, just released by the Washington Redskins after leading them in tackles, which is ironic, last season, was on the team in 1997. He'll tell you to this very day, we didn't have a football on the field for the first 2 weeks of practice. All we did was tackle the whole first 2 weeks. And I wasn't a great offensive coach, but we could out-hit anybody we played, and we never got hurt. And so over the years, of course, I followed my son to high school, went with him, and then when he left high school, I just continued to stay there because I was having success. I really enjoyed coaching. And
are you still acting at this point?
Yeah, I'm still acting, and that's why I would never accept a head coaching job because I would get a pilot. Like I got 16 pilots in 16 years. Every year I got a pilot. Some of them sold. The great majority of them didn't. One of them sold without me. They replaced me. Another couple sold where I was, on a star, not star, but I was one of the actors on this TV series. And so I would never commit to be a head coach to a team and have to leave and go to Toronto for, and do a TV series or go to Florida and do a TV series because I never wanted to do that. So I'd always and it just worked out that it didn't happen to where I'd have to leave.
Let me ask you this. This is something fascinating. How does a guy, I mean, you're tied into football because of your kid and you because of who you are, you're doing the right thing. You're using your talents to make the game safer even back then. But where's the epiphany? Where does Bobby go, I've got a calling to change the game? How does that happen?
Well, in 2006, I just got tired of acting. Because to me, it's not really doing anything to benefit anyone other than yourself and your immediate family. Yeah, you make money, but really it doesn't. It's just a lot of false adulation you get from people because they see you on TV and they look at you like you're something special, and you're really not. You're just another human being, and it's just what you do for a living and happen to be in front of a camera.
Yeah.
And so I said, man, I felt empty, to be honest, and hollow. And I said, Lord, what is it that I do best? And the answer was, in my mind, there was no voice like came out of the clouds. It's just the voice that said, communicate with young people. And I said, Lord, what is it that I know best? And the voice again said, tackling. And I said, the gift that I gave you. He said, the gift that I gave you, tackling. And I go, oh, yeah, that's right. Nobody knows how to tackle. I'm going to go out and teach everybody how to tackle. So I go online. I'm just that naive, man. Really just that simple. And I go online, and I'm looking for tackle equipment, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking for sleds. I'm looking for bags. I'm looking for pop-ups. I'm looking for everything. But everything that relates to football started popping up. Concussions, paralysis, and death. And all of a sudden, Tim, a fire goes out under me, and I go, oh, my God, I got to go out and tell the world there's a way to do this without these injuries. They're dying and getting injured. Oh, my God, I got to go share this with the world. So this fire went out under me, and it just so happens I just started doing it, man. And now I had been doing my camps already, but not because I was still doing them at Narbonne for 5 years in a row. I would do my camps at Narbonne High School because I coached at Narbonne from 99 until 2006. And I would actually feed the kids because I was doing well acting, right? I was doing TV movies of the week, guest starring on TV shows, getting my own pilots, doing tons of commercials. So I would actually feed the kids chips, sandwich, and a drinky so they'd come back the next week because I was working the heck out of them. And it was free, right? I just wanted them to keep coming back but at the same time, I'm honing my craft for another time in the future that I didn't know was coming.
Well, what's interesting, if I may say, Bob, is some of the stuff that I've put out recently, and definitely that when I counsel coaches or staffs is, if you're just doing this for doing it. And that's where most people are at. You see, especially at the youth level, they're helping their kids out and whatever. But it's not till you get a higher purpose, or as you would call it, a higher calling, that things start moving. And that's what it sounds like to me. All of a sudden it dawned on you, man, I got to shout it from the mountaintops because this is real stuff going on, right?
Right. Because, like I said, earlier in our conversation, we talked about why did football become important? Because it can make you become the best you can be in life. You're not going to run a 4.4. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have anything to do with that. You can be a round little tubby dude, short and stubby legs, and can't run and can't catch. But that game can make you one day. You'll be the president of the United States that will make this world better. You might be that person that discovers the cure to cancer. You might be that person that, gets Palestine and Israelis together and stop their feud. Who knows who you are? And that's why coaches, it's so important that they understand they got to protect these little people because you don't know. That might be Einstein that you're dealing with. The next one is going to come up with something that's going to make us a better world. That's why
years ago, a quote, you like to throw quotes out, and so do I. Some of them are my own, and some I rip off. One was a favorite of mine is one by, at one time was the most winning football coach in college was Amos Alonzo Stagg. And then I think Bear Bryant broke his record. This is going back. And Stagg was for people who don't know who he is, he was actual hero of John Wooden. And Wooden was inspired by a lot of the stuff Stagg did. Well, anyway, after a winning season, Stagg was asked by the press, what do you think about your kid's success? And he said, I won't know for another 20 years.
There we go.
That resonates with me. I got to tell you. But let me jump forward. And tell me if I'm wrong, but I think where this all just kind of comes to a head, and the issue in football that we're talking about is spinal and concussion, and most of the biggest word to most is CTE or concussions when they think about the problem, and of course we've talked about this. It's also spinal injury. If you're tackling right, you're going to get a double bonus. You're going to protect your spine, and you're going to protect your brain. But where it all come to a head, I believe, was a meeting at an institution here in Los Angeles called LA84. And LA84, for those that aren't in the know, is an institution put together from the LA Olympics in 1984. There was so much money left over. It was such a success that the founder, Peter Uberoth, put it into an account, and it basically runs off its own interest. And their whole purpose is to make for positive youth sports in and around Los Angeles. And so they brought, in 2012, wasn't it, the big convention?
Yeah, that was the big convention.
12, something like that. They brought all these doctors and all these experts to their meeting, and one of the guys, it's on YouTube if you look it up, LA84 concussion. There's a thought leader in the space called, his name is Dr. Robert Cantu. He's written books, good stuff. He actually paid props to Bobby in that meeting, and you don't see too many doctors paying props to advocates of playing football. And so I wanted to point that out, and then also ask, is that really where everything just starts getting big? I mean, is that where the NFL happens? Is that where the documentaries happen, the interviews, or is it about that time?
Well, actually, it was before that. Like I said, I was doing these little camps at Narbonne for years, 5 years in a row. I had very little equipment. So what happened was a gentleman goes in by the name of Keith Johnson, who runs an organization called the LA Falcons in inner city Los Angeles, and he's doing a fabulous job. It's way more than just football. He's just saving lives, basically, getting kids, grades, everything focused on the right parents, families. He turned it into a family social thing. Okay, it's really fantastic what he's doing. Well, anyway, Keith had brought his son to me years earlier. I don't remember when, because when you come to my camp, I shake your hand one time. Hi, Dad or Mom. Come on, son. Right? And I don't know what you do for a living. Don't really care. Just get him here on time and pick him up when we're done. And I don't know what parents do. Well, anyway, Keith Johnson ends up being the president of the LA Falcons, and he goes in to get funding from LA84 Foundation. And then in it, he had a line item in his paperwork for my services. And Jalal Hazard, the late Walt Hazard's, John Wooden's first All-American, actually, is the person vetting his paperwork. And he reads this. He goes, hey, you can use this money to buy equipment. And Keith's response was, yeah, we already have equipment, but he's going to teach us how to use it. He's going to teach our coaches and players how to use it. He goes, this is impressive. Should I meet this gentleman? Oh, you need to meet him. So unbeknownst to me, Keith had brought his son to me years earlier, and to hear him say it, you only had this one dinky little sled. And it's true. I had this one dinky little sled. And so I go in and I do a presentation for them, for the COO of LA84 Foundation, and a gentleman by the name of Mr. Wayne Wilson, who is the Vice President of Education for LA84 Foundation. So I give them a presentation along with Jalal and my business partner, Oscar Edwards. They call him Dr. Death from UCLA. UCLA's first All-American strong safety, who started the line of All-American safeties at UCLA. So after the meeting, I'm sitting there. Me and Oscar are talking to Jalal Hazard about his dad coming to visit us and telling us about getting our degrees, because if we don't get our degree, we won't be able to do what we want to do later in life, because he wanted to coach the Bruin basketball team. In fact, he was going to go back to school. So while we're having this conversation about his dad, Mr. Wilson and the CEO who had left, Mr. Wilson comes back in the room, and his eyes are like Christmas morning when we see that brand new BB gun or that brand new bike under the tree, like we were kids. Just how he goes, you know what? Yes, Mr. Wilson. He says, all the medical disciplines say if you take the crown out of the tackle, you'll eliminate all these injuries. And I started laughing. I go, yeah, Mr. Wilson, that's what this last 45 minutes was about. Right? I just kind of laughed. And so they hired me. They end up hiring me to train 200 of their grantee coaches, the programs that were getting funding from them. Okay? And come to find out now, I know that LA84 Foundation has the largest sports medical library in the Western Hemisphere. So when Mr. Wilson went in there and looked it up, he looked at everything that anybody who had an opinion on this subject in the medical field, period, right? And that's why he came back with his eyes so huge. So that's 2010. 2011, they called me back. Bobby, you want to do it again? What you did last year? We want to do it again. It was such a success. I said, okay, fine. When you want to do it? But yeah. But first we want to do a scientific research study on your system to see if it does what you say it does. I said, whoa, what do I say it does? You say it prevents concussions. I said, oh, yeah, it does that. Well, what do you want to do with the scientists? He said, well, anyway, Tim, they bought in that time, Rydell had a helmet, the very first model to come out with sensors in it. It was $1,000. So they bought this $1,000 helmet. Yep. Scientists came to my camp, and they were setting up the tent, and they had all these things to measure acceleration of the brain, the head, where the impact is, the size of the hit. All this stuff was going to be analyzed, and a computer was going to pick it up because they had all these sensors and stuff. I had not spoken to, because I broke camp the following Saturday. I mean the previous Saturday. I hadn't spoken to anybody about, hey, I need a volunteer to do this test, because the scientists called me on a Wednesday and said, yeah, you know what, Bobby, instead of coming down to us, we're going to come to you because you have all your equipment there, you have all the kids, so we'll see you on Saturday. Click. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know who's going to do this. So lo and behold, after my first session was 8 o'clock to 10, no, 8 to 11. I was doing 3-hour sessions then. I look over there, and there's a scientist setting up. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have a kid. And up walks this 15-year-old kid who'd been to one of my sessions the previous Saturday, right? And I asked his dad, I said, will you sign a release for your son to do this for me? I have signed. He said, oh, yes, please, go ahead. He's from Africa. He's African. He said, oh, yes, whatever, right? And Tim, this is how I know it's divine intervention. The helmet fit the kid like we took him down to Sports Chalet to buy him a helmet, and they fit him before he left, or Cal Pro, right? It was his helmet. It was meant. And then, so the kid, he does the traditional wrap-em-up technique. I'm like, oh, man, you all right? Because his head was hitting his head. And he goes, yeah, I can do it again. I said, okay, one more time. And he does it again. And then he does the different rip. Boom, boom. And at the end of it, the scientists leave, and they send me the data, and it shows a 43% reduction in the helmet first impact, dipping and ripping versus the traditional wrap-em-up technique. And that was 100% of the crown. And the only thing that touched was the face mask brushing incidental contact on the way up, because your head is going up and away from the ball carrier when you dip and rip. So you'll never impact injurious impact. You can't lacerate their kidneys. You can't bruise their lung. You can't break their ribs. You can't hurt your neck, and you won't get a concussion because you're not hitting with any part of the helmet. Incidental contact, face mask is nothing. And all the rest of them, all the impact went to the crown of the helmet. So that made the Hosea method, my dip and rip sticks, my helmet-free tackle, all the different names I kind of called it over the years, the first and only to this very day evidence-based concussion preventive tackling technique in the world. And that's started because of LA84 Foundation's vision of wanting to make sports safer for youth. And that's what the Olympics is all about. It's about youth, young people, and being healthy through sports.
And the study proved it out, right?
Yeah.
The
study. Yeah, it's online now. If you go online, type in LA84 football head impact analysis. Yeah, football tackle head impact analysis, LA84. You just type that in the Google. Boom, it'll pop up. You'll see a PDF. Click it, and then you'll see all what they said they did, and you'll see the measurements.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: what is your opinion? A lot of the states, I know California, and you're coaching also. That's the thing we failed to say. Right now, you're also coaching high school ball. And you have to live by this rule, is that California as well as other states have decided to limit tackling during practice. And then also we saw just recently the Ivy League decided that, am I wrong, that they're not going to even tackle at all during practice?
No, you're
right.
What
do you say about that?
It's misguided. It's very misguided. Reckless behavior is reckless 100% of the time. Whether you lessen it 50%, 30%, 80%, whenever you're doing reckless behavior, you're doing reckless behavior. And it only takes one time to be injured for the rest of your life. You don't get injured, paralyzed 5 times, once. So whether you're doing it 100 times or 25 times, whether you're spending 2 hours of tackling a week or 90 minutes or 50 minutes a week or 45 minutes a week, if you don't recognize what is dangerous about the particular activity, which is football. In football, tackling is the most dangerous aspect of the sport. What are the elements that need to be eliminated and replaced? Not just a reduction of physical activity or full contact, but what are the things in the contact that are causing these injuries? Okay, so that's misguided.
In a few words, because we're running long, then is it possible, you mentioned helmet-free tackle, so I'll use those words. A lot of people use those words. What is a helmet-free tackle, and is it possible to have a safe tackle?
Of course, that's what it means. Helmet-free means you're not going to initiate contact with your helmet, nor are you going to expose your helmet to contact while you're making a tackle. It doesn't mean you're not practicing with a helmet on. It's ridiculous. You got to play the game with a helmet on. You're not using it to hit. You're not exposing it to hit. For example, I created Heads Up for USA Football. Okay, they compromised because 5 to 12-year-olds are the largest demographic to buy football equipment. So they said put the head to the side because the 5-year-olds and 7 and 9-year-olds were not able to use my technique because they don't have the strength in their legs, core, and shoulders to do it properly. So they need to wait. They need to develop. They need to play another sport before they get on a football field and put on shoulder pads and helmets. But they didn't want to do that. They wanted to sell equipment to make money. So they didn't really care about the safety aspect of it. They wanted to make it convenient so they can continue making money. So I had to step away from USA Football and all other organizations that profess this type of technique. You want to dip and rip. And if you can't dip and rip, you ain't ready to play. You don't belong on the field. So, yes, what it is your hips control the direction of your head. Your arms control the direction of your hips. So when you use terms like wrap them up, I call it hug your mama tackle. When your knuckles and elbows are on the same level and you put your arms around a person, your hips are going to go back. Your head's going to go down, and you're going to impact with your head. When you use one shoulder to go to one side or the other, and you get your hips and head on the same level, see, it's only an assumption to think that you're putting your head to the side is safe. It's not, because you have teammates, you have blockers, bodies all over the place, okay? And you put your head to the side, you will be hit in the side of your head or the top of your head by a teammate or a blocker. So why teach it? It's Russian roulette. So when you do that, if you get up there just wasn't one in the chamber. You were still playing Russian roulette. So why teach it? It's dangerous. Angle tackle, head across the front, or what USA Football says, head to the far number, as if that changes things. You're putting your head across a person's body. Your eyes are going to go down. Your crown is going to be exposed. You can be hit in the temple by the ball carrier, and you can definitely be hit in the top of the head by your teammate. Friendly fire. So
I know I know one of the things, because I've been through the last year as the president of our youth league, I went through the safe tackling that USA Football does, partly out of curiosity. And within that group, there is an equivalence that some people are trying to put on heads up by USA Football as to the Bobby Hosea method, and I told them there's huge differences.
Oh no, it's a basketball.
And of course, I think I was made a safe tackling coach by them after a whole, I think maybe 15 or 20 minutes out on the field, actually practicing it, which I thought was crazy. So my point here is that, and what I want to bring this to with you is, I mean, you've met a lot of resistance. The USA Football thing, the traditionalists, et cetera, and I think a lot of it is a desire for money, for an easier path to a sale, which, hey, I'm a capitalist, I get, but as I like to remind people, that doesn't mean we got to buy what everybody's selling. There's all kinds of contraptions out there. We've talked about this offline before, that guys are selling that are just absolute trash when it comes to protecting the brain. So is it fixable? Is this first of all, is this the number one problem in football, A, and B, is it fixable?
The number one problem in football is ignorance, arrogance, greed, and false pride. Mm-hmm. Those are the number one problems. That's why the sport is dying along with our children. USA Football came about. Carl Peterson was a wide receiver coach at UCLA in 1976 when I was a redshirt JC transfer. So he knows who I am. He called me in 2009, and he said, Bobby, I am now the CEO of USA Football, and I got a problem. So what is it? He said, we're just tackling. He said, these guys that are here are hired from the Olympic Committee. They can run a sports organization, but they don't know a damn thing about football. Can you look at the tackling for me? I said, okay, Carl, just send it to me. So I look at it. It's got head across the front. It's got bite the ball, eyes through the thighs, wrap them up, everything that I know that causes you to get killed in tackle football. Right. So I tear it up and I throw it in the trash. And I prayed. I said, Lord, I know I'm going to have millions of men listening to my words. Give me the words to tell them, because millions of little boys are going to be listening to them. And I know coaches are lazy, so they're not going to do my 12-step tackle progression to the T. They're not going to do it. They're lazy, because I know too many coaches that are lazy. They're waiting for All-Americans to show up their practice, but they're not going to teach them nothing. They just want the best players, but they're not going to teach them anything. So I gave USA Football 6 of my steps. They chose 5. And in the process, they flew me out to Baltimore at the Ravens indoor facility. I spent 20 minutes with these kids before I go on camera with them. And these guys are soft as baby food, and they're not used to being told what to do. And if it's difficult, they don't really try hard. These rich little kids, I guess, rich kids. And it's just the way it is. And so maybe about 4 takes, kids did it right, and the rest of them did it horrible. And so for some reason, I didn't get a phone call from USA Football for 6 months. And then they called me and said, Bobby, we're having problems. I go, what other problems? He says, well, they're telling us to put the head to the side. I'm like, no. Don't put the head to the side. Why? He says, well, all the kids are hitting with their face mask in the chest. I go, well, show me what you got. So they led me to a video where on YouTube they put up for me this view. I go, dude, they're not doing anything that look, I'm demonstrating in front of the camera what to do. Are they doing what I'm emulating? Why did you guys wait so long to tell me this? I could have flown back out there and fixed it. And then so they were persisting to do that. And so I went above their head, and I went directly to the NFL, and I said, do not allow them to teach head to the side, head across the body. Kids are going to die. I said, listen, I've never had a player since 1997 suffer so much as a headache doing it my way. You guys have 4,000 of your former players suing you for brain injury-related issues. Please do not do this. I said, either go back to what I originally gave you, the original heads up, or cease and desist using my name, my likeness, and my terminology. Well, they chose to just ostracize me, and I learned that you can use up to 15% of someone's intellectual property, and you're not infringing. So that's why you see part of my terminology still. I think dip, rip, I don't know. But they took out a lot of it and added the old stuff. And, in fact, they're mixing it in with the hawk tackle, which is the most dangerous tackle in the world. It's killing kids. Like I said, I don't have any dead kids from doing it my way. I don't have any paralyzed kids from doing the Hosea method. I don't have any kids with concussions doing it with the Hosea method. I don't have kids with headaches doing it with the They have kids that are dead. They have kids that are paralyzed. Since 2013, 23 high school football players have died of traumatic brain injuries. 9 players died last year in 2015. The NFL has 58% increase in concussions in 2015 over 2014. They are not doing it right. Like Einstein said, no problem can be solved by the very same level of consciousness that created it. And USA Football proved it, and so is the NFL proving it now. So a lot of it has to do with lawyers. I would always, up to 5 years ago, I would always contact a school or youth league or a college when a kid would get paralyzed or die on the field. In fact, Riverside Poly, just this past season, Josh Nava had his brain basically explode on the field doing the hawk tackle, and he had to have brain surgery. I reached out to their athletic director, but nothing. They don't ever call me back. And in Indio, I think maybe 6 years ago now, a young man died. And so I reached out to that program. A guy called me. He says, Coach Bobby, I want to commend you for what you're doing, but I can't tell you my name. But our lawyers say if we hire you for your services, we'll be admitting guilt for the young man's death. So we can't do anything. So I was at a loss for words. I didn't know what to say to him in response.
Yeah.
So in other words, we're going to keep our head in the sand. We're going to cross our fingers and hope nothing happens again. And that's why.
Well, and this is, if I may, this is really why I'm really big on getting your message out there and other guys' messages about safety and being responsible. As coaches, I like to say we're stewards of the game. If you're not a steward, then you're the opposite. You know, you're hurting the game because if we don't take this on ourselves and be responsible, then you just said what happens. The lawyers get involved. And once the lawyers get involved, it starts getting overregulated, and it ruins the sanctity of the game. The good stuff in the game starts getting sucked out because you can't actually practice, as we demonstrated earlier. It is an absolute ridiculous, blasphemous on the game that the Ivy League would not allow tackling at practice. I mean, that's just, and there's no outcry. You don't hear anybody bitching, and to me that's insane.
Yeah, but supposedly institutions of higher learning, anything but it's not really the institution. It's the coaches. It's the NCAA, and they're just really absolving themselves of any accountability and putting it all on the players. If you don't coach at nothing and they get hurt, you think you're absolved from the injuries they're going to get? You can't be.
Right.
You haven't.
Right. You're attached. Whether
Right.
you like it or not, brother, you're attached. So, and that's what I've been saying since this thing all started is, we know how the story's going to end up going is the lawyers are going to get involved because the morons, if I may be so mean to say that about our fellow coaches, if you're not a steward, you're a moron because you're not being serious about this game. You're acting selfishly for your own purposes as opposed to the kids.
Here's what I want them to really, you said the right word, selfish. I want every coach in tackle football to be selfish and only think about their future, their family, their children, their house, their job, anything that has value. Because here's the deal. All you got to do is go to the news. National Pop Warner was sued for the injury that paralyzed Donovan Hill from our own backyard, Lakewood, in 2011. They had to settle out of court. National Pop Warner just got sued for a 25-year-old young man who committed suicide because he only played 4 years of Pop Warner, didn't play high school, didn't play college, and CTE was found in his brain. National Pop Warner had to settle out of court with his family for over $2 million. So coaches, if you think that the courts don't know what injurious instruction when it comes to tackling is, and you are mistaken. If you're teaching head across the front, bite the ball, hawk tackle, eyes through the thighs, and your young man does not get up off the ground, you're going to lose everything you consider valuable, including your wife, because she's not going to stay with you when you have nothing and all the college funds and everything else for her children are gone because you refuse to get better at what you're doing. So just be warned or get out of the game. That's what I'm going to tell everybody. There's only one safe tackling technique. When we say safe, it's not, understand me. I'm a competitor. I want to win. I want to whip your team's butt. I want you guys going off the field with a L and we have a W. But you might outcoach me and you might be smarter, but your team is not going to out-hit my team because we're going to tackle for real. And we're going to tackle in a way that won't injure you and won't injure us. That's what you need. All coaches need to be on the same page because you just said the word, stewards of the game. To heck with the game. The game doesn't really mean that much if you're not stewards of these children, caretakers through this time and period of their life that you're looking out for their well-being so they can be contributors to society. Who cares about your winning record? Nobody. It's about protecting the children. And so that's what you're the steward of, being a blessing to these young men because you are a role model in how to be dignified, how to win, how to lose properly, how to work hard, and you're going to do it the right way for the right reasons. If you're about anything as a coach, number one is the well-being of your children, your job. 3 things that a coach is only supposed to do: protect their life, maintain their well-being, and enhance their football experience. And that's it, nothing more. And once you think about that and put the child's well-being first and the player's well-being first, because I hear a coach tell me all the time, Coach, if someone came out to your field to harm one of your little boys, what would have to happen first? They got to go through me. You mean to the point of you stop breathing? You better believe it. So you give your life for that child? Oh, yes. So would you do anything unknowingly or knowingly to bring harm to that child? I never would. You teach bite the ball? Oh, you better believe it. I need to get a fumble. Mm-hmm. You teach head across the front? Oh, yeah, we got to cut them off. Okay. You teach wrap them up? You doggone right. Okay, well, that's paralysis, traumatic brain injury, and death. Did you know that, Coach? No. You know why you don't know it? Because you're not required to know it. And so it's the administrators. It's at the highest level of the game because everything trickles down. The NFL, so they get a cookie because their guy says, football and CTE are related just now. So what's this big announcement? All of a sudden, the NFL is acknowledging. They just uninvented CTE last year, 2015, April. No football player moving forward, current football player moving forward from April 2015 can claim CTE. Well, yet and still, their concussions were up 58%. So they're getting the same damage as prior.
I saw a guy. I saw a guy in the Super Bowl. I know darn well he had a concussion. He was seeing nothing. He didn't even know where he was. I can't remember who it was, but man, he got his bell rung, and you see it every single week.
So it comes down to 5 questions. Okay, I asked coaches these 5 questions. I know we got short on time. First of all, what do you teach on an angle tackle, coach? Or what do you teach on a form tackle, coach? Okay, whatever their answer is, then I say, first question, well, what is the point of that instruction? What is the objective of that instruction? Whatever the answer may be, okay, what is the risk of that instruction? What is the consequence of that risk? What is the result of that consequence? What is the alternative to that original instruction? These are things USA Football does not require of you. They don't tell you what's wrong, what causes injury, and what can prevent it. They don't care about that. It's all phony. It's fake. No, industries do not fix their problem. They spend time and money denying that it even exists. But now the medical community has caught up. So their junk science and their manufacturing doubt no longer works. So now what are you going to do about it? So what's going to happen when all these little boys that are getting paralyzed, brain damaged from following USA Football? Because that's why Pop Warner got sued. They're following USA Football. They're teaching injurious tackling instructions. Ask you this, where is there science that heads-up tackle is safe? They don't have none. They bastardized my system, which has the only evidence of safety in it, period, in the world. Heads-up tackle does not, because it's bastardized, meaning they've infiltrated it with other elements that are dangerous that I identified, eliminated, and replaced in 1997.
Well, Bob, I want to say thank you very much for giving quite an educational talk. It's something that I'd like to point to. I've pointed to your site, and your YouTube channel is just full of instruction. Would you like to give those out? I'll have links for them in when I put the podcast out. But would you like to give out your links?
Right, I have 2 websites right now that it's funny. Somebody came up with trainemupacademy.com and pointed it toward an Arabic-speaking site, and Network Solutions shut mine down. But it's back up now. So it's trainemupacademy.org and GT Science, George Thomas Science.com, which is short for Gridiron Technologies and Science.
And those both have your links to your Facebook and your YouTubes. Yeah, I highly suggest going there. The YouTubes are great. Although I've been to several of Bobby's clinics and participated, I had to in one of them. I still would go when I was coaching. I'd go to the YouTubes to refresh on the terminology and some of the techniques. Bob, I want to thank you for your time, and we'll get these out. We'll probably cut this up into a couple parts, and with that, I'm going to stop the recording.
Hold on 1 second. I want to say one thing.
Please.
There's a new platform called CoachTube, CoachTube.com. where because if you go to all the YouTube stuff, it's not really instruction. It's really kind of more like you just see it, but you don't get the ingredients to put it all together. Well,
Yeah.
CoachTube, I've been selected to teach tackling on CoachTube, so you can be able to buy my entire series. I'm going to start by the end of maybe middle of next month. It should be completed. It's been taking me over a year to do this, to edit all these videos and all these things. I just, and doing it yourself is really tough, but I've got the equipment now, doing it right, and you're going to get it directly from me. So you'll be able to teach it with everything, and you'll get all the answers to your questions on how to do this the proper way. So CoachTube.com. So just put that on there as well. That's coming soon.
Awesome. With that, I'm going to end the podcast.